How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and this time we are doing...
Is this hero an Indian?
At least partially an Indian. I mean, at least a fourth, if not half. They stated in his kind of origin that his grandfather was an Indian, and he was trained to move quickly and as silently as a deer. Yeah, I know. This is something you would expect to find in a Frontier comic book, not in Ace Comics. We are continuing with Ace Month.
Did you know that this is 299?
No, I believe that this is Lost Heroes number 122.
Just because you started numbering this format at a really weird time doesn't take away the fact that you're almost at 300.
Really? We're one away from 300? Well, look at that. We are one away from 300. Well, in that case, I guess next week we'll just have to do, we'll do another patriotic superhero with superpowers.
Just how many patriotic superheroes does this publication have?
Don't ask. Don't ask. Okay. Yes, we are doing somebody who is at least partially Native American, and I think it's unusual that it's coming out of Ace comic books. This is somebody that I kind of stumbled on when I was doing Lash Lightning. I kept going through the pages and I was like, well, who's this character? And this turns out to be someone called Buckskin. I'm not a real big fan of his uniform, considering what he's supposed to represent. I mean, this guy, he's at least a Native American, so I guess it makes sense that he goes after Nazis and American subversives. And near the end of his run, he starts kind of fighting more villains, but nothing that lasts more than just the issue. It's obscure, unusual, and it lasted 10 issues. So, I mean, there's not too much to dissect about this thing. They're pretty simple and straight storylines. American subversives like the Fifth Columnist, Nazis, some saboteurs, and then a couple of villains. So let's go ahead and get into Buckskin on this Lost Heroes of the Golden Age. Buckskin, Robert Blake, first appeared in Super Mystery Comics Volume 2, Number 1 in 1941. The publisher is Ace Magazine. He is created by Bob Turner and Harry Anderson. As the series goes on, I've noticed other names associated with the series. He appeared in a handful of the Super Mystery Comics Volume 2 and 3. Actually, he appeared in most of the issues. Let's see, with Volume 1, he only missed number 5, and in Volume 3, he only missed number 6. But he was in the other ones. He didn't have any cover appearances. He was mentioned on the cover a few times in various other ones. I think maybe 2 or 3 total. Now, most of his activities were him fighting against Fifth Columnists or people trying to sabotage America in some way, and a couple of Nazis. It's actually kind of disturbing how many Nazis ended up in the U.S. that he had to fight off. Now, he's had to basically just go up against people who did not have America's best interest at heart. I'm not a gigantic fan of the costume because it's kind of like a rollerblade blue. And I mean, yeah, you're a costume superhero, but your outfit just doesn't feel right. I would have liked the costume to have reflected more of the color of his belt being a dark brown, or maybe kind of like a light brown with a yellowish tinge to it, because later on in the other issues, they start calling his costume a deer hide. So that means that you got a deer hide and you dyed the whole thing blue to get your costume. That's like really silly. Now, in the first issue, they say that his grandfather is an old Indian scout, and later on, they would say that he's descended from Indian scouts. So, Robert Blake has got Indian in him, whether it is a fourth of an Indian blood because his father or grandfather was a Indian, or whether it might be half because we don't know his parentage. So he's at least a fourth Indian. Now, in the very opener, it says that he moves swiftly and silently as a deer. They don't really say too much about that in other issues, but they do hint a lot that he is a descendant of Indians. He doesn't have any special powers except that he is a proficient fighter, and he's been trained by an Indian, so he knows how to track. In the second issue, he actually tracks a couple of kids that got lost through the forest in the dead of night. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive that he's been able to do that. He can also use a lariat. I might be saying it right. And he can use that as basically like a lasso or a whip for whatever the situation calls for. He has been responsible for some people going to their death, but doesn't outright kill anybody. But he doesn't shed a tear over anybody who has to die. Especially when he fought, was it Dr. Death? He fought two people in his very last issues that could be considered supervillains, and that was the only time. The other times he just, it might have been Dr. Death. That guy ended up getting himself stabbed by his own knife weapon, but that wasn't Buckskin directly stabbing him with it. And the Banshee was a really stupid and ridiculous story. I think the fact that he was just fighting Nazis and saboteurs might have been the reason that he didn't go on for more than 10 issues total. I found his first couple appearances interesting, but then it just didn't really hold my attention as much as the beginning did. The last two issues were sort of interesting. He fought villains, but they were both one and done villains. The second one was kind of ridiculous. But yeah, that's really all there is. A highly trained and intelligent bird, and he's got Indian descendants, just as a lot like an Indian, except for the fact that his outfit is rollerblade blue. So let's go ahead and get into the very first appearance so you could see what they might have been trying to go for before it ended up only having its 10-issue run. Buckskin Blake, America's Defender of Liberty. Robert Blake, raised by his Indian scout grandfather, can run with the speed and silence of a deer and use a lariat with deadly accuracy. Thus, equipped and accompanied by his trained eagle, young Robert Blake, though principal of a big city school by day, becomes known as Buckskin, leader of a patriotic youth group in their fight against all un-American activities. And you can see a pretty good splash page right here. We don't get any information about where they're at. He says big city school, and even when they're talking about the fifth columnists, they say in a large city. So we get no indication of maybe state or city or anything. In the hidden dark cellar in a large city, Jarg Mongrel, I might have mispronounced that, leading the fifth columnists of the U.S., call a meeting of his spies and saboteurs. So he tells the rest of them to clear out because he wants to talk to what is a midget of their group. And, yeah, he's a midget. So he says that he needs them to take off the dress clothes and dress as a kid. So the next day, he wants to enroll this kid into school, and he's talking to Robert Blake, the principal. We just moved into this section. I want to register my son for school. So later on, when they're at recess, he comes up to a pair of twins. I'm guessing they're twins. They're brother and sister. And he needs to befriend because of who I think they've been adopted by. And we'll get to that in just a second. So he wants to talk to the boy alone, and he asks his sister to, go away for a minute. And they go off to a dark corner, and he asks the kid, "Hey, you want to smoke?" No, it's against the school rules and it's bad for you. Anyways, who's going to know? Say, I wanted to ask you, are you and your sister the two English kids brought over here away from the war by Malcolm Hart, the big airplane manufacturer? Which makes me think that Malcolm Hart isn't like their father. I think he may have adopted them and taken them from the war country. So I think that they're not related to him, because he even says, yes, he's a swell fella. He doesn't say, yeah, he's our father. So I think that he adopted these two kids. So he tells the kid that he's interested in planes and stuff and would like a chance to meet him. And they part ways. After school, he asks him if they'd like to come to the Liberty Club meeting tonight. And he asks what goes on at the meeting. Each member reports any un-American activities he has noticed. Then we talk about what we can do to help preserve our government and democracy. The leader is known as Buckskin. Now, he goes back and reports the situation to the boss. And normally I would say a whole bunch of kids getting together talking about how they could better the country wouldn't really be a threat to fifth columnists like that. But when you have somebody, they said the leader is Buckskin. Buckskin may actually have some influence over the way things are run. So I can see why he would think that this patriotic club could be dangerous. So that night, the principal dresses up and he becomes Buckskin Blake. Buckskin takes his trained and highly intelligent eagle from its cage. Come on, Talon, old boy, here it goes. And we get this scene to see him swinging out of his back window and leaping over the fence. Which, this is your house. That was unnecessary. I mean, unless you're worried that the other people who live there can see who you are, but they see you going out your back window and jumping your fence. You're not exactly stealthy in a what is that, rollerblade blue? You're not exactly stealthy in that. Okay. A few minutes later, at the meeting hall of the Liberty Kids, Buckskin's a little late. He'll be here any minute. So Buckskin pops out, and so do the fifth columnists. Buckskin from the front, the fifth columnists in the back. So he says, now we will pledge allegiance to the flag. And we don't get it. The fifth columnist's like, okay, we've had enough. We're going to break this up. We're busting up this meeting. See? Hey, what do you fellas want here? So they start trying to harass the kids, and one of the fifth columnists smack a girl. You deliberately struck that little girl. So what? The brat got in the way. And yeah, you don't go smacking kids around. Buckskin makes work of the guy, and the others rush on stage, and he asks to himself, I hope this light fixture is good and strong. I'm guessing from what I can see of the light fixture being held by chains, I don't think it's as strong as you want it to be for what you just do. I mean, you're swinging around, pulling on it real hard, and this is just a chain strapped to the ceiling. I'm pretty sure you pulled the chain out of the ceiling. So, apparently it's strong enough so that he can go swinging around the stage for several panels. Knocks out the guys, all the traitors in a nice little pile. Now, isn't that convenient? He's got us roped. What a package I've roped up. So he gets all the fifth columnists tied up and strings them up from a telephone pole. I thought it was a tree earlier when I looked at it. This should prove uplifting, boys. Sorry, I can't raise your intelligence. Perhaps that'll teach you to treat our country and youngsters with respect. Now, why he doesn't call the cops on them, I don't actually know. I mean, just them being fifth colonists wouldn't be enough to get arrested, but the fact that they broke up the meeting and was smacking kids around should be enough to at least get them a night in the jail, don't you think? After what happened tonight, we're going to stop fooling around, Midge. Tomorrow, we're going to work, and these two English kids, you're going to go to work on those two English kids and get the information that we want. So the next day, he's hanging out at the John and Mary Hayes's. The next day after school, Midge gets John and Mary Hayes to take him to their house. So, yeah, they're Hayes, and the guy is Malcolm Hart, so they're not related, as far as I can tell. Might be cousins, I don't know, nephews, I don't know. Anyways, he tells them that he's going to go someplace for a minute, and he breaks into the office, and he starts looking for plans. Here are the plans. I better get back before those kids get suspicious. They walk over, and they notice that he's in the office. Give us back those papers. Don't try and stop me. I've got what I want. Now I'm leaving. And he knocks the boy out of the way, and he leaves. I'm going to telephone Buckskin. Maybe he can help. They dial a secret number of Buckskin known to all the members of the Liberty Club. Yeah, this just does become a thing in later issues. So he tells them that they caught him stealing a bunch of plans about the airplane factory. They were fooled. They didn't realize who he was. I mean, he looks like a kid. I can understand how you could be fooled. So he tells them not to worry about it, that Buckskin will take care of it. Nice work getting those plans, Midge. Now we can plant the explosives where it will do the most good. So Buckskin apparently realizes that they're going to go to the Hart plant, and he's waiting for them. Oh yeah, Hart plant. Okay. So as soon as they get there, Buckskin and Talon. Yeah, Talon. Okay, there it was. They descend upon the would-be saboteurs, and he starts to beat him up. One pulls out the gun, and he actually snatches it away from him by using his lariat as a bullwhip. I'll take the gun. He's got my gun. Beat it. So the other ones start to run off, and I'm thinking this is the main guy. He's holding up the box of explosives, and he's going to throw it at Buckskin. Just then, Talon swoops in and grabs the explosives. Cheese it, boys. The Boyd has the explosives. Get going. If he drops that, and he does, he drops the explosives on the car blows to bits, which means all of them are dead. You and your bird just killed a whole group of fifth columnists, which they're fifth columnists. Okay, Talon took the job right out of my hands. He knows how to deal with enemies of native lands. All right, and the last panel, at home once more, Robert Blake Buckskin calls John and Mary. Everything's all right, kids, and I want to thank you for helping Talon and me in defense of America. You will find another new adventure of Buckskin Blake in the next issue of Super Mystery Comics. I hope you liked this video. I hope that this was interesting enough, and yes, the next week is number 300. Yeah, I've done 300 videos. So, we're going to do another patriotic superhero
montage.
No, the montage is only on the 4th of July. Stop doing that. Okay, and until next time, I'll be seeing you.